This is the U-Force. It was an alternative controller for the Nintendo.
And I brought in an Epoch game pocket computer and a box copy of the rarest game for it, Storekeeper.
It's an old Pac-Man Penny Arcade, maybe a Coleco. It still works. I don't have batteries for it right now.
This is the KoalaWare paint pad for the Commodore 64 and Atari 2600 system.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 o'clock p.m. Welcome to the second biannual, I think that's the word, Retrogame Roadshow at PAX Prime. So basically, I am a big fan of trashy reality television like Pawn Stars and American Pickers and Storage Wars and Auction Hunters. And basically, if it involves people finding collectibles and talking about how much they're worth, I will sit there and watch that show. And I thought, let's do that with people's video games. And so basically, how it's going to work is we've talked to a whole lot of you. Many of you here in the audience have brought some really, I mean, looking down the list, some pretty cool gaming collectibles. So you're going to come up and you're going to sit right here with us. You get to be on a PAX panel for a few brief moments, and you get to sit next to Frank Cifaldi right here.
Frank Wandering Hands Cifaldi.
Just slap him away. Say, no, Frank. And what he will do is he will use his web camera on his computer, and so the entire rest of you in the audience will be able to see the collectible. And this panel of experts here we will talk about what it is, why it's cool, why it's collectible, why it's rare or why it's not rare at all, and we will attempt to hazard a guess at how much it is worth or how much you might get for it should you decide to sell it. I really do want to stress that these prices, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not try to like take out insurance on these things and be like, some guy at a convention about webcomics told me that it was worth X amount of money. Like, we're gonna do our damnedest. But please, if you really have, if you really want to go and get things appraised, this is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you. I am now fully absolved of all legal liabilities.
In other words, we're guessing.
Sometimes we're just guessing. We will do our absolute damnedest to guess correctly. We are going to start. Okay. So hold on. I did.
Let's start.
Just to be really to be clear, sitting to my left, your right is Frank Cifaldi, who is kind of a genius. He is very, very smart about the history of video games, has a very extensive collection of video game magazines, and writes all sorts of very well-researched pieces on the history of games, and that is him. Now applaud for him.
I don't work for 1UP anymore.
Oh, well, you do freelance for 1UP.
Okay.
No, I switched them. It used to say 1UP and Lost Levels, and I moved Lost Levels to the top. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm selling Frank short. Frank is a video gaming archaeologist, and he has participated in or spearheaded the saving or creating of dozens of prototype video games, and making sure that when prototypes of unreleased video games are found, that they are dumped and that they are released to the world at large.
And now I'm poor.
Should have sold some of them. Yeah. Sitting to your left, my right, is a person whose video game collection dwarfs all of your video game collections. He has an entire basement in his house full of amazing things, and is also an expert in his own right. And he's working. He's the director of development at Other Ocean Interactive or something like that.
Pretty much.
He is a big cheese at Other Ocean Interactive. They're doing War of the Worlds,
Yes.
which is out on the show floor, I think, and looks really cool. And also an extremely knowledgeable person, Mike Micah.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Kohler. I have spent way too much money on old video games. I'm not proud. So anyway, let's start the show. Let us start the Retrogame Roadshow. And one of the first names we have on the list must have been one of the first people in line, so he seems to be very excited to be here. Brandon S. Where's Brandon S? There he is.
Yeah.
There he is. Brandon, come up here and take a seat. Show everyone how it's done. Be the role model for this room of bright-eyed youngsters.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
Hello.
So what do we got here?
What's up?
We have a copy of Panic Restaurant for the NES.
So let's switch over to this.
To the unicorn cam. Okay. Okay. Set this up somehow. There we
Brandon,
go.
why don't you tell us about Panic Restaurant and how you came across this cartridge?
Well, I went to a church garage sale, and they were selling an NES for $50 with like 20 games.
Terrifying.
And I mean, most of them were like Super Mario Duck Hunt. I think I ended up with like 4 copies of that.
So you bought the whole thing?
Yeah, I bought the whole thing,
Okay,
all the
all right.
games, and one of the games in there was Panic Restaurant. And I had tried to do research on it, but I couldn't really find that much information on it. And I had gone to flea markets and game stores and stuff, but nobody really seemed to have a copy, so I'm not too sure about the game.
Yep.
Or how much it's worth.
Yeah. So, you know, collecting the Nintendo Entertainment System is becoming very popular now, as a lot of the kids who grew up with the NES start turning, over 30 in my case, and start getting a little bit more money and start thinking like, okay, I want to go back and buy all these things that I had as a kid, or in the case of really Panic Restaurant, didn't have as a kid. A lot of people will tell you, I mean, Panic Restaurant, it is a late release NES game. It came out very, very late in the NES's life. It's a popular game. It's by Taito. It's a really fun arcade style game. A little freaky. So basically, Panic Restaurant and several other games like Bubble Bobble Part 2 and the second Flintstones game called Surprise at Dinosaur Peak, a lot of people say that these games actually were only ever made available to rental stores. Like, not a lot of stores even wanted to stock NES anymore, so a lot of video rental places.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, I think this one's late '93, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. The Super Nintendo had been out for years.
The Nintendo was just like what you got if you were 8 years old and your mom was poor, you know.
But there was
at that time.
At that time, but there was still a thriving, you know, rental market, and so a lot of these games mostly made it there. So Panic Restaurant it's not so Bubble Bobble 2, which was released around the same time, for the fact that it's a Bubble Bobble game, is actually worth a little bit more than Panic Restaurant. If you had just the cartridge of Bubble Bobble 2, it's like well over $100. It's like a $100 to $125 cartridge. To have the whole set, to have the box and the instruction manual, and the important thing to realize is they were rental games in many cases, so the instruction manuals would get destroyed by little kids whose mom was poor. Thank you, Frank. And oftentimes the box would sit in a Blockbuster Video and get sun faded. So I mean, the condition of the box and manual really affects it. But a cartridge-only copy of Panic Restaurant, you know, if you were to basically want to sell this to somebody, would really get between like $80 and $100.
Yeah, it is one of the rare. Like officially licensed Nintendo games that came out in America.
And I'll tell you, it's going up.
Yeah.
That used to be something of a maybe a $50 to $60 cartridge, and if you had the box and the instructions, you'd be looking at a little over $100.
Yeah.
And now complete sets of Panic Restaurant with the box, with the instructions, are trending towards $200, and the cartridge itself is going up.
The thing about classic Nintendo games, like you said, is kind of becoming in vogue to collect NES games right now, and when people start that, they eventually try to complete the set because that's just where you go when you start. And Panic Restaurant tends to be, of these 700 plus games, tends to be one of the last 10 to 20 that people need. And so, when you get that desperate, and like you said, you couldn't even find another copy when looking around. So when you get that desperate to start filling in those last few, it's just those handful of people who are only have those few left are just bidding against each other like crazy.
Yeah, they've already spent thousands of dollars to get that far. They're not going to let this game stop them from.
That's why stadium events, which is everyone's last one, which no one brought, as far as I know. You were speaking of crappy reality shows earlier, and what was the one that the guy found a Nintendo and he's like, "Oh, this is worth $14,000."
Yeah.
No, Stadium events. The game that was in a lot that went on eBay drove a lot to $14,000 because it's the rarest one.
Yep.
It's not worth $14,000.
It's not. However, it is. You got to. You pay
piece,
$20 for the whole set. Is that what you said?
50.
50? You still got a very good deal.
Yeah.
I would pay that any day for that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Can we back to the laptop? I'm gonna, actually, speaking of which, talking about like, do you have games in your attic that are worth a whole bunch of money? One of the things that's really kind of taking off right now are the NES. Sorry, that was another thing I'm not going to do. Our black box NES games, and this is referring to the very first games that Nintendo brought out for the Nintendo Entertainment System when it came into America. They all have a very similar box design with a pixel art, and there's basically 30 of them. The caveat here, and when I say that these are going up in value, is that the value is in the box, and the value is in the condition of the box. If you have a copy of Donkey Kong Jr. Math up in your attic, and I'm sure that a lot of misguided parents did in fact think that apes were the perfect tutor for their struggling children. If you've got the cartridge, you can get a cool $10 for it any day of the week. But because a lot of kids threw away these boxes because these are the oldest NES games and the boxes just got destroyed because Nintendo did wise up and not make a whole lot of copies of Donkey Kong Jr. Math. The last, and I'm actually selling it short on this slide, the last mint in box copy of this game on eBay sold for about $650 that's with a really nice box and the instruction manual and the game.
I sold mine for $30.
In the box?
Yep.
Wow. When was that?
This was in like 2002.
Exactly. So I mean,
these things go up. I guess that is a good
And I'm not
point.
saying that the prices of NES games are going to go up forever. I mean, they're going to go up. They're going to go higher than they are now. And at some point, they are going to come back down. It happened with Atari. I mean, the prices of a lot of like complete in box Atari 2600 stuff, was going up, and then it all kind of came down because you have a limited number of people who are looking to get this whole set of games, and once they all have it, demand drops away.
People complained about the 3DS launch. This was a launch title for the NES.
But it's real. But it's so
they
important
went out
that
with this.
I know,
this is the one.
Mike, you had said that you still possibly somewhere in your parents' place is your old copy of this, right?
Yeah, I just went back literally a couple weeks ago and found all these. My dad was one of those guys who threw away all of his stuff when he was a kid. So when the NES came through, he was just like, hold on to this stuff, and he kept all the boxes up in the attic for us. So when I went back, all these games have their boxes,
Thanks,
all
Dad.
the manuals. It was awesome. And I have like 2 copies of Stack Up that I didn't realize.
Holy
so
cow.
I know you want one, Chris.
I got one. But
Okay,
yeah,
then I'll
so
just give it away to somebody else.
leading us on to Stack Up. Thank you. Very nice segue.
Very nice.
Stack Up was a game for the robotic operating buddy, the Rob, and it required extra parts, and so it was packaged in a very big box that had different claws for the robot and little discs that he picked up and put down. And if you have that whole thing, now you're looking at a set that's worth like between $350 and $400 right now because collectors need it. They want the whole thing, and the condition of the box is very important. These black boxes, the way that they made them, as soon as they start taking a little bit of damage, the black ink starts to chip off of them. And so what collectors are really looking for is they're looking for something that's in really, really nice shape.
Well, and this box in particular is tough because it's bigger to house all the stuff. So just a little bit of weight on it causes a lot of creases in it.
Very true.
It's
Yep.
hard to find a really nice one.
Yep. And so again, if you've got these old NES games sitting up in your attic, it might be a good time to go find them. Not necessarily sell them, but get them out of the attic and get them into something
Shake the spiders out.
Yeah, and
that's
Jeremiah
maintain its.
Jeremiah and Stack Up in particular, a lot of you might actually have the game, but you might be missing the parts. Those parts are actually pretty easy to get. It is the box that's the hardest thing to have.
Yeah.
But the parts, you can go to places even like 4Js and stuff online. They have hundreds of brand new parts for these games.
Yep. So, and again, some of the other games that are coming up, like Urban Champion, Balloon Fight, Clue Land, I mean, these are games that are rising in value as people start to get into, I'm going to collect black box games. And the next thing you know, games like soccer that I think I isn't on there, but you know, I can't find it personally. Like I've been checking to see if I can get a complete copy of Soccer for the NES. Cannot find one. And so basically, you know, even things that, you know, there was no demand for them, they're starting to come up because, as Frank said, collectors are starting to try to collect complete sets of whatever it is. And so, yeah. So anyway,
let's move on.
Let's keep going here. Matthew M. Can Matthew M. please come up? Please welcome him to this. After Matthew is going to be Bill M. Bill M. You're on deck. Just be ready. That's all I'm saying.
What is this? Yeah, what's in this?
That's it's a sealed copy of Final Fantasy III for the SNES, signed by Nobuo Uematsu, the composer.
And here's one. Is that also Uematsu?
Final Fantasy I also
Yeah, do we have
signed.
security?
And I have photos on this thumb drive that prove that it was actually him.
Nice.
In case anybody wanted to contest that.
Wow.
I know. I'd love to.
That's
Yeah, it
great.
might be a little too.
I'm not going to load that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. We don't know what's
just
on
in case,
there.
though. So.
But
Okay.
you know what? And the important thing is what you just mentioned is it's so important that you have you know, provenance. Essentially, you can prove that somebody didn't just scribble on your sealed copy of Final Fantasy III, right? So to have that photograph there is very important, especially when you're dealing with signed collectibles. I mean,
It does look kind of scribbly to me, though.
there are yeah, you're right. No, obviously, and again, I've seen Uematsu's signature. That looks pretty good to me. I'm not a signature authenticator. I'm going to wipe off my potentially sweaty hands before I touch any of these.
So,
But,
you know, it is. There's been a lot of research done into how to authenticate a sealed NES game. That looks legit to me.
Okay, yeah, let's take this opportunity and
So-
look at the seal.
I mean, I don't want to encourage you guys to try to recreate this at home or anything, rip people
Which
off. But
it's pretty difficult.
But a licensed NES game will always have a seal going this way across the back. If you go up and down, someone's ripping you off.
And if there's nothing, someone's probably ripping you
Yeah.
off.
And then this is a pretty distinct part
Yeah,
of the seal.
the way
also.
that folds over like that,
Yeah.
the way the shrink wrap folds over. I mean, that's how you know it's like from the factory. Super Nintendo. I mean, you know, you're gonna look. A lot of Super Nintendo games are gonna have a hang tab on the back of the box, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because if you're gonna go through all the trouble of faking a sealed Super Nintendo game, you can stick a hang tag on there.
But if you're going to fake it, you do a better job than
Yeah,
this.
and you'll notice here again, Super Nintendo games. That's what they want you to think. No, Super Nintendo games have a vertical seam going up and down the back. So as far as our seam panel of experts is concerned, Mike, did you take a look at these already?
Yeah, I did. You know, NES and Super NES, this is something like, I mean, everybody out here, you oohed and awed when you saw this. Like, anybody have a guess what they think this is worth? I like hear what people think this is worth.
We have a lot.
I hear a
400,
lot?
I hear 400.
Yeah,
I hear 1,000.
I think a lot's pretty good.
I mean, well, first of all, let's take the signature off. Let's not.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
take
sorry.
the signature
I'm not going
off
to really
real
take the signature off, but let's pretend that we fixed it for you. Let's pretend that the signature was not on this. Yeah, I mean, so Final Fantasy, there were actually a lot of sealed copies of this. Very, like you could walk into KB toy stores and you could still buy Final Fantasy, like even like in the Nintendo 64 days.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, this is a game that was reprinted.
It was.
Like they kept copies in circulation. I think they reprinted it after the Super Nintendo versions came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. Yep.
But I don't think there's any difference between the original run or anything. So I don't think, you know. But it's still, you know, it's Final Fantasy for God's sake.
Right. It is a series that, despite best efforts on the part of Square Enix to make people hate Final Fantasy 13, is still going strong. And so, you know, the fact that you've got the very first one still sealed, you know, this is, I mean, probably this game, I think the high end would be like $200 for a sealed Final Fantasy 1.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's about right.
absolutely.
That's probably where it would top out. And Final Fantasy 3, you know, again, what it has over Final Fantasy 1 is that people love it, a lot more, right? So, I mean, you have more people out there looking to get it. Sealed games is tough because the people who collect sealed games, they're really all about condition. They've got to have it, they're collecting sealed games. They want something that's like just totally factory new.
Yep.
So, in this
there's
case,
a company that grades sealed games based on their sealed condition.
Oh yeah, yep. Just like how you'll see comic books that are graded. There's a company that does video games.
This one does have a tiny little tear here,
and that's the kind of thing that would knock it down, right? So Final Fantasy 3, I would go, again, no signature, probably north of 200 for that. Probably not much further north.
Really, I think I'd go 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably between 2 and 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 as well.
It's gonna be more.
And it's gonna be going up.
Yeah.
Both of these games are actually gonna go up. Like Final Fantasy is topping out a little bit, but Final Fantasy 3 is definitely going up. Like in just the last year, we've seen some sell for upwards of like 320, 350.
Yeah. Okay, so now we come to the signature. One-of-a-kind items. The problem with them is they're one-of-a-kind, and you really can't figure out exactly how much they're gonna go for. But to the right person, because I've seen signed things that are signed by people on the development team and nobody has any idea who they are, So,
but if you love Final Fantasy enough to buy a sealed copy of a game, you know who Uematsu is.
Exactly. And so because it's so rare that you would get his signature on stuff like that, it would send those prices a little bit higher. But you might put those on eBay and have 2 collectors who just desperately want that, and they fight over. For a charity event that I'm on the board of, we got Toru Iwatani's signature on a copy of Pac-Man. And that all went directly to Child's Play, basically, but it went up to $600. So again, these to the right bidder would be worth a premium over the 200, 300. But you've got some really, really, really interesting items there.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone try to sell a signed Final Fantasy game before. So these are definitely unique and cool.
And selling them both as a set with a signature would probably.
I wouldn't even do that.
Well, hang on. Do you even want to sell these?
I have no intention of.
Oh yeah. I'm saying this as far as the general, and I do applaud you, sir, for not selling them at all. But as a general point here, if you were to have these and if you were to want to sell them, I would recommend totally against selling them as a set.
Okay.
Because
I agree.
What you want is for somebody's budget's only going to go so high, right? So you want 2 separate people to pay you a little bit more each.
The recommended, but there's the signature is what I'm thinking about. There's potentially that it's fine. You probably get more money individually, but that signature set is
Yeah, and in many cases, a collection can be worth less than the sum of its parts. It's always better to try to sell things individually, essentially.
And my personal advice, if you were to sell either one of these, is to get them graded by that company first, because I think that would be the kind of item that no one's seen before, is a graded, sealed, signed.
The problem is they don't do signature grading yet.
They
count all signatures, the VGA, the Video Game Authority, they count all signatures as like a flaw on the package.
So don't get these graded.
But you can go onto the Video Game Authority and you can actually buy like the really, really nice
You should put these in better cases. My hands should not have touched these.
Yeah, I would actually go and do that. You can get those for like $20 to $30 and they'll make you custom cases. And then you put it in there, and then you never have to worry about any condition altering at all.
Chris Kohler's.
Exactly. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Thank you. Awesome.
Bill M.
Bill N?
Bill M.
Oh.
Bill
not Bill
Mudron,
Nye.
the famous cartoonist.
I thought Bill Nye the Science Guy was going to come up.
Step right up.
There you
Hi,
go.
Bill.
How you guys doing?
Got here.
Hello, hello.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask a question about that last. Well, thanks for having me follow.
Well, sit down. You have a microphone.
Yeah, thanks for letting me follow what is essentially the Cameron's dad's Porsche of video games. So this is not going to be half as.
No problem.
All right, so we got 2 items here. Did you? I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
Oh no, yeah.
All right. First item. I don't know if any of you came to our Boston panel. Anyone else travel like we do?
Yeah. I was there.
We had a couple Game & Watches that you guys might remember.
Yes.
This is our first boxed one on our show.
Yeah.
This is a boxed Game & Watch Donkey Kong. Now, show of hands, does anyone know what a Game & Watch is?
I think that maybe some of these people,
a little
these
bit.
fine people. Know
This is the first thing Nintendo of America did for consumers in America. Before they launched the NES, they had this line of what's this? Guys, we've been pranked.
This is actually probably worth more than the actual
I'm
DS.
gonna like play your DS.
well, it's worth like $100 less than it used to be.
I'm gonna like
Yeah,
screw with
exactly,
your game now.
yeah.
Yeah, look at that. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't have one.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I put you home. Yeah. All right.
So there you go. There you go.
Comedy act.
See, the reason, the joke there, if you didn't get his joke, is that the Game & Watches, some of them were dual screen, decades before the DS. I mean, nerds like us, when we first saw the DS, were like, haha, it's like a Game & Watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know you did that. I was there.
And the battery life is better on this one than the 3DS too. So.
I was going to ask if it works, but it's actually playing right now. I don't know if you guys can see.
I put in a battery just for this.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pass this off to our panel.
Okay.
You want to look at the box real quick, and then I'll put it back on.
Yeah, there's Xeroxed instructions in there too. So.
And then,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you can start.
There's another item you've got here. This is, why don't you tell us about this?
This is a sealed original copy, I believe, of the original Famicom Zelda.
Well, that's not a big
first
deal.
one. Well, you know what?
I got like 12 of them down here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What are you using? It's holding up your chair? What the hell? No, actually, I only paid like $20 from Japan for that, so I figured there was something wrong with it, or was forfeit or something like that. But
let me.
I don't know if I got a deal or what.
So I'll tell you about that. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Why do we have two?
Yeah.
Because Mike recently acquired one also. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna lie a little bit here because I haven't really figured out all of this yet, but. In 2003, Nintendo made the Famicom disk system, right, which was in Japan only. It was an add-on. Sorry, no. Nintendo back in the 80s. We're gonna get to 2003.
Expert Chris Kohler, yeah.
Where you going?
No, Nintendo made the Famicom disk system, which was a floppy disk drive for the
you got
NES,
the paperwork
and that's
also.
where,
Yeah, exactly. But that's Xerox,
the
some of it,
chintzy photocopied instructions.
Yeah.
So basically, they basically did a floppy disk drive for the Famicom, and this is where a lot of games like Legend of Zelda, Kid Icarus, Metroid, Super Mario Brothers 2, the original, kind of all originated. And so in 2003, like 15 or so years after they originally released the thing, they finally actually discontinued it, and they told the Japanese, like, well, sorry, if you bring your disk drive into Nintendo, we won't be able to fix it anymore. Which means that they, for a long time, they were actually, if you brought your busted disk drive to Nintendo's headquarters, they would actually fix it.
Oh, and the big problem was that the rubber band was that thing that ran the system was
they
the weakest.
fail on all of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it
Eventually.
was.
It's really irritating.
Around that time, this is where I'm lying a little bit because I don't really know about the causal connection between these two things. I was living in Japan, and what ended up happening was suddenly a whole bunch of Famicom disk system games started appearing in all of the retro game stores for not very much money, for about $10 each. Brand new copies of The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, Kid Icarus. You know, most of the major first-party games start showing up in the stores.
And this does happen, you know, sometimes in the collector's world. You know, you'll have a game that's extremely rare and sought after, and all of a sudden someone will just find a pallet of them in a warehouse, and all of a sudden they're not as rare anymore.
Yep. And so what happened is a lot of these in the early 2000s just sort of started appearing in stores, and so. If anybody was speculating and holding on to these games for a long time, you know, they would probably have seen the value decrease because you're right. You paid about $20. Yeah, it's probably worth between $20 and $40, maybe on the absolute high end.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was a Chinese pirate or something.
There are a lot of them out there.
No, this is definitely legit. The way you can tell that it's still brand new is this seal right here. They're not shrink wrapped, but they have stickers on them. And
the question I had about the previous thing, does it matter, I mean, I'm totally taking this off topic. Does it matter if something is signed, if it's signed on the plastic shrink wrap like his item was, or is it worth more if it's actually signed on the actual like cardboard box?
That is a really good question.
You know,
there's
not like
okay. That's just something I thought of.
There's not like a reliable tracking method for signed video games yet at this point.
But if it's signed on the box, it's opened.
Yeah,
and so you've got people who freak out about that.
That's a good point. Yeah, exactly.
But sealed is new.
Yeah.
Speaking of signatures, Mike brought in something else related to this that I'm just going to show off, which is the Game Boy Advance version of this signed by Miyamoto.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So that's.
But
that's
these
crap.
things you can find in the most unlikely of places. Like I was just actually in Michigan, and a friend of mine happened to just pick these up someplace there
with a
signed Miyamoto.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And he gave them to me.
What?
Don't tell him. Everybody. Shh.
People need to get their shit together. That's crazy.
So as far as Donkey Kong goes,
so again, for the sake of appraisal, we got the original box. We don't have the original instructions. We have a photocopied
instructions.
We have the original warning card with this very distressed guy.
And we have a pretty sun-faded, kind of beat-up box. It's all intact, which is good. There's no cardboard falling all off of it. But at the same time, Donkey Kong is pretty much the most common of the Game & Watches. The actual unit itself is pretty well played. It's very scratched up.
There's a lot of scratches.
It's seen some love.
Yeah, you do have the box, but again, when we start getting into those collectors who want the box and want the instructions and everything, they're looking for condition. Now they're really getting into I want the nicest. And so you'd probably be able, this is, it's probably like $40 or so, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
A good condition loose Donkey Kong about 80.
Okay.
If it's really good condition, this one's not quite. So the box is kind of beat up, and that's the hard part. Is it'll probably with the box and this probably be about $80 tops.
Okay.
Anybody's really looking for it, but the manual being Xerox.
Yeah, I just paid. Just on eBay like 6 months ago, I paid $20 for this.
Oh, you got it.
It was $40 for the Game & Watch. So yeah, I guess I wasn't.
Wow.
ripped off.
Hey, look at that. Yeah. Everybody.
So
everybody
wait,
got the right
he
price.
paid your appraisals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Damn.
I could have just told you what I paid for it. That would have been it. Yeah, exactly. I already knew how much.
I know. Why do we spend all this time up here? Well, Bill, thank you very much.
Anyway, awesome.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for bringing that up.
It's good to meet you, dude.
Yeah. Awesome to meet you too.
Stick around after the panel.
Totally will do.
Let's get Dan G.
Let's get crazy.
Let's get crazy. Dan G. Dan G is here. There's Dan G.
Dan G.
Dan G.
You need some help? We got some kind of crappy Saturn.
Let's get this
game
off the floor. Here you go.
What's this?
You people. You people in your video game.
Well, I got one of these under my chair, too. No, I don't.
I have a question, Dan. Did you just buy this?
Yep, about 4 hours ago.
Okay, all right.
Now, did you buy it from the Stop and Save?
No, I did not. I got it at Pink Gorilla Games over
Here
Expo.
at PAX. Okay, cool.
Yep. Wow, it says Stop and Save on it. Okay, that's pretty great.
Yeah,
it is
this
pretty
was
awesome.
purchased at apparently a supermarket. Yeah.
So we talked before the panel, and you said that a reason you brought this up was because you weren't sure if it was authentic.
I just wanted to confirm the authenticity because I paid a lot for it. So
yeah.
So
and basically, I don't even know if the CD is in there. You know. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, first of all,
Well, I see one good sign, certainly.
Yeah. First of all, we should talk a little bit about the game.
Let's talk about this game. It's pretty good. You should open it up and play it.
All right. So this was a very late release for the Saturn, right?
There's like the big three, right?
There's this and what House of the Dead.
House of the Dead. There's Burning Rangers.
Yep.
There's Shining Force 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's Magic Knight Ray Earth towards the very, very end of the short, sad lifespan.
Which meant they had very limited runs, like the earlier stories as well. Like these were not as big.
They didn't make very many of these. Is the point? The Saturn market was pretty much dead. I was always under the impression that they were just like, well, we shouldn't just not release this. We're not going to make money off of it, but we might as well just print what we have.
Right. So they print a couple.
Yeah.
And this was a really very brilliant, forward-thinking game. It was a role-playing game based on the Panzer Dragoon series of shooters in which you rode around on a dragon, and it combined, RPG elements with, like the in-flight combat on dragons. And it was great. It was so good. And they didn't make very many of them. And
do you guys need a closer look at the seals?
I think I'm good. I can see it. I'll show it to Mike, though.
It had 3 discs, correct? It was 3 discs.
It
4?
was. Yep, it was 4 discs.
It's a lot of game.
Yeah, if you were to open it up, not that I'm suggesting that we do so, but you would see that the discs in there are like in like cardboard holders. You know, it was kind of a cheaply made set. That candy, I would say, that's worth like 10 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got that gooey crap in the middle. I hate these.
Oh,
good?
Yeah,
So,
here you are.
My feeling, first of all, is that I really trust the buyer that you got this from, Pink Gorilla. They're a reputable
very
dealer.
Important. Yep.
You know, that's an important part of collecting is you know, know your dealer for.
Very important life lesson.
Yeah.
That was one of the motivations. It was here at PAX. So,
yeah, I mean, those guys are not gonna they're not gonna lie to you. They're not gonna screw you over. The stop and save sticker on here. If this were somehow a fake, this would be a brilliant fake because that's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty nice.
The seals to me look like they came from a factory. This isn't like, I mean, you know, I don't know how much detail you could see on that, but you know, this isn't like someone at the video store using their shrink wrap with the heat gun in the back room sort of deal. You know, this is a factory seal.
And I don't really know if you can see from the on the camera, but it has the hang tab on the back as well.
So I mean, you know, again, this is for entertainment purposes only, our appraisals, but I would call this authentic, absolutely.
Yeah,
I have no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, I have no doubt about its authenticity. As far as value, should we go the Antiques Roadshow route and ask what he paid, or should
I would? Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't mind saying.
No, I don't mind it. I mean, it didn't bother me. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Because I was looking for this game.
Well, it sounded like you were just willing to pay whatever.
Yeah. Well, I paid $500 for it.
That's. I'd say that's market value for someone like Pink Gorilla. I mean, they obviously know what they have.
They're a retailer. Yeah, they know what they're sitting on. Yeah.
You know, I would say that's a fair price, but I would say on eBay it's probably more in the $350 to $450 range.
And that's what that didn't bother me too much.
Yeah. I mean, you paid a slight markup, but it doesn't matter.
And you also got to see the condition firsthand.
You got to see it.
I wanted the rare classic game. I mean, so I'm going to put that away for a very long time and just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Good for you. Good for you.
Don't ever open it.
If you want,
have you played this
game?
game?
Get an open
that's
copy.
the problem. I haven't played it yet.
You haven't played
it? I still can't play it.
Yeah.
That would taunt me.
All right, show of hands for open it.
All right.
They seem to want.
They have voted.
And again, you know, if you're, I mean, you're looking to protect your investment essentially. Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
you know, invest in a box. Again, Video Game Authority.
Don't try to remove this, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Keep it all intact.
Yeah, keep the price tag on there.
Where can I find that case? How can I go about looking
it's the
for
company is called Video Game Authority or VGA. I'm getting that right.
So these are the guys we mentioned earlier. They will grade games. I don't think you should bother getting this graded.
I think you should. I think you should get that graded. Yep. The problem is, you know, they're gonna see that sticker and they're gonna mark down the grade that the game is.
Whereas I think most buyers would actually prefer to have that sticker on there.
Yeah. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna grade it. And this is the really important thing. They're going to grade this game, and they are going to examine that seal, not for entertainment purposes, but they really will examine that seal, and they will make absolutely sure that that is an authentic seal. And what they do is they put it inside that lucite box, and that gets closed up. And so basically, you as the investor essentially, and anybody who might be the buyer later on, is going to know that seal is definitely authentic, and that just as long as that box hasn't been opened.
I mean, even if you don't plan on getting rid of it, it's good to sort of protect your investment.
What's up?
You know?
So if he's going to hold on to it in a box, should he not get it graded when he's going to sell it?
No, he should get it graded immediately, because all that's going to happen is if you hold on to it in a box, there's always the potential that it's going to get damaged. And so to get this, what you want to do is get it graded, because when they grade it, they put it inside of a very thick lucite container that you can then display on a shelf or whatever it is you want to do with it, but it gets sealed up.
I mean, that's,
and
you know,
so
if
it's going to maintain that
if like
condition.
in this case, like you have no plans of opening it, there's no reason not to protect it, you know. Something we should point out is that there is a small crack.
Yeah,
there,
and again, VGA will like ding you for that, but you know, you're not, don't be too concerned about what number grade they put on it, you know.
No,
It's
the
really
point
for
is you
protecting
wanted
it.
a sealed Panzer Dragoon Saga. You got one.
You've achieved it.
You go, boy.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Let's get Alex F up here because he's going to stump us all, and I know what he has. I'm looking at this thing, and we were all very.
Alex F, everybody.
Alex F. Here he comes. To make us all look like fools.
This one, damn it.
Here, Mike, go right over there. Yeah,
I'm coming over to see.
Okay,
Right.
okay. Yeah.
All right. I bet very few of you have ever seen one of these before. This predates the Game Boy by about 5 years. This is
And
the
it looks it?
Epoch Game Pocket computer. This is technically it's not the first portable game system with removable cartridges, but I think it's the first one with like ROM cartridges as opposed to having the game sort of built into a screen. And what that was a Microvision?
Microvision had a card.
Okay.
That's just a dummy card in there right now.
Oh, okay. So you actually brought a cartridge also. Is this
going to boot up?
Yeah, it works.
Hey!
All right, here we go.
Bonus for everyone. We get to see it going.
Oh, you gotta turn the sound on. Where's the speaker? Can you guys hear that? Yeah. All right, let's put that cartridge in here. How do we do that?
So
why don't you show us?
Okay. Cartridge goes select goes in there. I kind of like how it's got this clear thing, so you can actually see the
Oh, it's
cartridge
got the
label.
rules in it too.
Oh yeah! Wow. Jeez.
Wow, that's innovation. That's basically a double screen.
Just that one screen is static.
There's
Yeah.
a contrast somewhere too.
Okay. Can you guys? God, it's hard.
Yeah. It's primitive. We'll just put it
promise
that
you the
way, yeah.
graphics are amazing.
It gives you the resolution right in the front there, 75 by 64.
Hey, now just don't move.
All right.
Okay, now try and beat that
So-
level.
Oh God, it's Sokoban.
So
I hate pushing
my
boxes
understanding of this, and I see this all the time when I go to like Akihabara, and this is a Japan-only device, and yes, it is a very, very early, predecessor to the Game Boy. It's big, clearly.
Certainly the first Japanese portable. if I'm
Won't
not
fit in my
mistaken,
pocket.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is made by Epoch.
Epic.
Yep, Epic.
Is it?
EPOCH.
Oh, is that pronounced Epic?
That's what we always say. But it had what, 6 games?
See, I prefer
Five.
like the
Five
epoxy.
games.
Five games.
And you're probably more of an expert on this than even we are because the game that you have, would you say?
Yeah,
is
I mean, please tell us what you have here. Yeah.
It's a box with instructions of Storekeepers, which is like the very last game they're released for, and apparently it's very, very rare. I found out about this system on the Retronauts about all the non-Nintendo handhelds, and I immediately went to eBay and found this.
Oh no!
Just for the record,
There it goes.
Yeah.
he
Then
did
it
that,
took-
not me.
Then it took me like 2 years to find an auction with that in it. Well, one that
Did you get this? Did you get this on American eBay?
No, I got a Yahoo Japan.
Okay.
I saw a loose copy of that with a loose system go on eBay twice, and it went for over $400 each time.
Okay. Yep.
And I wasn't willing to pay that, but I managed to find that with a broken system with the box.
Oh.
I didn't have a box with this one, so I have a box.
But you didn't bring the box today.
No.
Okay.
Too big. And I paid about
really?
$150.
How big is it?
Well, it's not that much bigger. It's just like foam over top. And
Okay,
I'm,
I got you.
Like
So
traveling.
what did you pay for the?
It was
for
about
the game in the box?
$130 after like the double shipping because I had to go through a third party
Yes,
and
yep.
and like the wire transfer fee and the terrible yen conversion rate.
I've been there. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it was 130.
And I just
for
bought
the...
another auction to get 2 more of the games. I'm only missing 1 now.
Oh, nice.
Damn.
Great.
So
What inspired you to start collecting this system?
I collect handhelds. I have about 50 different ones,
okay.
and I found out it existed, so I'm like, I want that.
there's a you're
then
probably
I like-
aware
yeah.
of Chris Covell's webpage
Yes.
about this, and
I
that's
found
like
out about
everything
it
I
from
know.
Retronauts.
Yeah, everything I know about this system is from that webpage.
So
I
the fact
actually
that-
used his website to try and to get the Japanese text to try and search on Yahoo Japan to be able to find it.
Oh, okay. Yep. I mean, the fact that you bought these at open auction does give us a bit of a clue because, you know, I'm sure that the Japanese collectors were hunting the same auction that you did, and we're looking to.
Yeah. I just really wanted this one because I like Sokoban games. I've always loved them. I remember playing one of the versions on my grandpa's 286 when I was a kid, and I just loved it. So,
yeah, it's pretty much for every system, right? Sokoban, which is the game where you have to you're the warehouse guy and you have to push all of the boxes around to get to the exit. Yeah,
the evil, horrible game for people who hate themselves.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to have to admit ignorance on monetary value for this particular lot.
It's just so rare, you just have to... Yeah. You just need to... Just depends who sees the auction and who wants it.
You paid $130 for this game and a broken one?
And a broken system and an extra game. It was the Reversey, which seems like it's the most common game, I think.
So basically what we know then is, what we can be pretty sure of, is that the price that you paid is probably for that game. You know, like anybody who's going to be buying that game, they probably already have a system. They don't need a broken one. They probably already have Reversey, right? So in Japan or on a Japanese auction, you can figure that's about $130, right?
And that's for the rarest, and that's the last run game. So you know that's probably the high price on that, considering it's other games.
Yep.
So
these are not vintage.
The batteries bring it down, but you have the battery.
I've seen some people with like the original batteries and like with all the inserts in the case and everything. I don't know how much they paid, but I've seen some people with that stuff.
That sounds dangerous. So, you guys have any opinions about value?
Just in general, to say that bringing things back from Japan to the U.S. will very often increase their value because the supply here of Japanese video games is so much lower.
I mean, just right now, this is increasing in value because of awareness. Suddenly, there's probably a lot of people out there like, oh, wait a minute, like
because there's a lot more like books and websites and things devoted to obscurity.
I mean, how many people right now are on eBay looking for a Game Pocket?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, how many people have ever considered potentially before this panel buying a Game Pocket computer by Epoch? I see one hand.
Okay.
So basically, and there's another guy. So basically, what that tells you is, you know, the demand for this is actually
there was just
low.
a couple of auctions like a couple months ago. A loose one went for $200 and a box one went for $160 like a couple weeks later. So.
Yeah.
And again, that's the increase on eBay.
There are handheld collectors out there. You know, there's a lot of guys like you who just love collecting all manner of handheld video gaming systems. So that's actually good because eventually they get everything that come out in America, so they have to start going into other territories. So you know, it is definitely it's its own kind of interesting subcategory of collecting. But in the end, it's a few people kind of fighting over a few things. But it is a really cool piece, and we appreciate you bringing it up here.
So thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
We have, sorry?
I think Blake and one more. That's probably what we have time for.
Okay. Who's Blake?
Blake Fisher.
Blake Fisher. Oh, yeah. You should come up here.
Yeah, Blake Fisher, why don't you come up?
Yep.
Now, we've known Blake for a while, and he's been collecting for a very long time. He's a good friend of ours. And we asked him early on, like, well, what do you have? What's some crazy things you have that maybe some people here haven't even seen before? And he happens to have a lot of things that people haven't seen before.
He has a box 5 1/4.
Nobody's seen this.
That's probably
That is probably true.
So, these are high density.
Blake is a collector, and we didn't really want to appraise this stuff so much as just kind of show it off, because I like looking at cool old crap, and I would imagine you guys do too. So no applause to that. No one wants to see cool old crap.
Nobody wants to see cool. Bring out more Zelda discs.
More sealed Final Fantasies.
All right, you want to tell us what we're looking at
this
here?
first one, this is actually, I picked up another collection who the guy had picked these up in a Silicon Valley surplus store. And they are Atari 2600 review ROMs that were shipped out to reviewers. That's what the red dot means, I believe. There's different versions of ROMs out there, and they have different colored dots. And I think the red ones are review.
And you haven't tried these yet, correct?
One of them was tested before my EEPROM cart died, which I haven't cleaned, so I should do that. Interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, interesting. One of them has no label, so it's kind of exciting.
It could be anything.
And one of them says Starship 2. Which there is a Starship, so I don't know if it's a different ROM or
Or what often happens is they may have actually created another space game that was Starship 2 and now came out as a different name.
Star Raiders, maybe.
Yeah, it could be Star Raiders,
but
or
it's
whatever.
different
So
time.
the way it would work is that a reviewer would have an Atari 2600 cartridge with kind of a blank, I don't know what you call it, like a clippy thing.
EEPROM socket.
EEPROM socket, yeah. And you would just kind of pop these right in there and then play the game. And these are very cool, and I want to know what's on the mystery ROM very badly.
Yeah.
Someday Michael hook me up with a EEPROM reader, and we'll check
It'll
it
be
out.
in the mail in a week.
So these things, you know, these are what you call kind of high-level collector pieces. These are, you know, this is going beyond collecting things you find in stores, and this is collecting things that you're not even supposed to have legally. So we've notified Atari.
Thanks.
They're going to reclaim their property.
Yeah. Nolan is on his way now.
Because the thing about these review games, and you know, Chris and I, and even Mike, I believe, have professionally reviewed games. You're not supposed to keep the review copies.
You're supposed to destroy or send back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Right.
for review copies from the Atari era to survive is kind of miraculous.
Yeah.
So these are very cool pieces.
Oh man, what else do you have?
I have two other things. The first, this is probably my pride and joy of my collection.
This is crazy.
Which is something. So many of you. As far as I know, this is the only known copy in existence of PC Junior Mule.
Yeah. PC Junior was a very early, maybe the first IBM home computer.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't know, how many of you have heard of IBM? How many of you have heard of Electronic Arts? Yeah, this is kind of where both those things started. But yeah, go ahead and like you said.
So this was so I just had my 15th year eBay anniversary according to some email. I don't know what they want me to do, but they sent me an email saying I'd been there. This search went on for 12 years. Right when I started eBay, I had read about it on some website that PC Junior version existed as a rumor. So I just set up a search. And then 2 years ago, there was a hit on the search for the first time. It showed up. There was no picture. It was running at about $90. I put a snipe in for a great deal more, figuring that if it was real, I was going to get it. Ended up buying it for $300. And it's still the only one I've ever seen. There's a scan. Someone did drop a scan on the internet of the label that I know is accurate now because it's the same label. So someone else has one, but no one knows who that person is, and his email doesn't work.
And, you know, this is the kind of item that maybe not that many people are aware of, and there might not be, you know, a lot of people looking for this, but as far as, you know, a historical artifact of video game history, like, this is just a beautiful piece.
Thanks.
Incredible condition.
Got the mule shirt on today, represent.
Yep. Hey, you want to show that to the camera? Yeah, Mule.
It's my favorite game. So I have every version of Mule that's been released in the U.S., including all the bootlegs, and then.
And now, finally, you have.
Well, I need to get the X68000 version out of PC98, PC88 version in Japan. That's poor Japan.
And now this is the craziest thing.
This is.
This is
so that was
this
bullshit.
other stuff.
Yeah. And this is the last thing I have. So this is another search that I've been looking for forever, which is a Capcom Power System changer. Again, I've never seen one in the box. I saw one on eBay for $1,000 loose about 6 years ago, and that's the only time I've ever seen one for sale. Open it up, check it out. Yeah,
so,
please. This one.
What am I squashing here?
Yeah, only my other ROMs. That's fine.
That's nothing. They made things to last back then. It's fine. So is the view good here? Okay.
I'm excited. I have no idea what this is.
So essentially, when Neo Geo got popular, Capcom wanted to make a Neo Geo in Japan, as we understand it. Now, all my information is secondhand, because even Capcom people have no idea what
you might recognize those ports.
Yeah, these are Super Nintendo controller ports. So the idea here was that you could get ROMs of the authentic arcade game. So you could get the arcade version of Street Fighter II, pop in a cartridge here, and play it for real rather than the Super Nintendo version of it.
It's actually a very close modification of the CPS-1 board, which is a big, I don't know if you guys have seen them, they're big gray boards about this big, plastic. So it would slide on top of it. But I have, to this date, never seen one of these versions for this system, just the real CPS-1.
So you can't actually do anything with this?
No, I can plug a Ninjama board into it. I've tested it, it works.
So it's like a super gun, essentially.
It is, with a weird inverted JAMA port, so you have to adapt.
So is this the only like Capcom home console ever? I think it might be.
Yeah, I would say so.
Wow. And so you basically just plug that in and plug it into your TV and put Super Nintendo controllers in it, and
you're playing arcade games, yeah.
And your TV.
You would have been the coolest kid.
Yeah. all those like Neo Geo guys are all prancing around in their like highfalutin ways. Like this would have been awesome to have to counter that.
You want to come over and play real Street Fighter 2?
What's weird is we found it in a store completely on accident.
This is a good story.
So I've set up a circuit in Akihabara. I'm sure Chris has as well, where you know all the stores when they open, where you're going to go. This is an arcade store that's hidden around a corner by the Euro place Star Kebab, which is delicious. And
okay. I know that place. I know that kebab place.
And it's up on the second floor, unlabeled arcade store. Huh. And I brought friends to show how cool this arcade store, and I moaned about how I'm just going to find a CPS changer someday. He goes, "Isn't that it on the store shelf right there?" This is after 8 years of looking. And then it was $100.
It's fantastic.
Nice. Have you gotten offers for this?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, thanks, Blake.
We'll put this video online, so expect offers from interested collectors. Yeah, thank you. That was really awesome. So let's get Furquin R up here. We're fast running out of time. Thank you. Furquin R will be our final guest, unfortunately. We are totally out of time. However, if you still have stuff with you and you're kind of wondering, like,
I've got no plans after this panel.
Exactly. We'll hang around for as long as we possibly can until PAX kicks us out of whatever area we're standing in, and we will definitely talk to you. So, finally...
Does anyone in this room have D batteries?
I apologize for not bringing batteries.
Mike, you saw this earlier. I don't need to.
You guys are probably all familiar with the Pac-Man Coleco tabletop and that
they
sort of
might
thing.
not be, actually.
Probably not.
How many people are familiar with these old... Okay, that's a pretty good show of hands. They had done a large run of some of the classic arcade games. You had Zaxxon, you had Pac-Man, there's Miss Pac-Man, Frogger.
Did they do the Donkey Kong one, or was that someone else?
I have seen a Donkey Kong.
Yeah, there's a blue Donkey
Kong one.
Yep. These are interesting because they're built pretty well, but not great. So over time, even just age causes them to kind of fall out of working condition. That's why we're asking for the batteries, because what will often happen is the array of the screen itself, certain rows or columns might actually just stop working, and they're very hard to repair. It's almost impossible beyond that point. Sometimes you can shake it around like Fonzie and hit it on a table and it starts to work.
They're like calculator screens.
They're basically calculator screens with some color.
So it worked last time you played it?
Yeah.
All of the LEDs lit up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's some other thing that happens that a lot of people actually lovingly refer to as Actiplaque, because the Activision cartridge labels would get this like kind of weird plaque specular pattern all over it. That happens a lot on these games. How's that looking, Frank? Is it the
like
stickers themselves? Yeah, like the actual labels, the white label will often have this really crazy pattern on it over. Like
I don't think it's
like
picking
stained.
it up, but there's definitely some Actiplaque on there. There you go.
This is a hard thing to avoid. Some people have managed to have one that survives this disease that a lot of these things have, but it's very rare to find it. So it's like it doesn't really bring the price down that much. People just expect it to be there.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. You weren't smoking around it or doing that stuff. It just happens.
So this is your actual childhood toy.
Yes.
That's very cool. Yeah. So we know the original buyer.
We know the original buyer right here. Do you have the box or manual or anything like that?
No, I just it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I thought I'd bring it in.
But you did have the battery door, right?
The battery door's on.
Yeah, that's great. Very important with a lot of these.
Yeah, those go missing somehow, and no real corrosion there.
Yeah, it's not all gross inside there. Always do that if you're gonna buy. Especially what you can sometimes forget about is if you see a Pong machine, an original like Atari home Pong or whatever in a thrift store, and it's like, oh, it's $10, it's great, and it probably is a really good deal, but the Pong machines, a lot of them, even though they used AC adapters, they also had battery slots.
Open it up.
Open it.
Look.
Open that.
You don't want to
up.
bring it home.
The last thing you want to do is to open it up and it still has the original 1970s vintage batteries inside, and they've all corroded, and it's disgusting because it destroys the inside of the machine. Basically.
Pretty much. It's reparable, but don't ever expect to get much for it, because that's the first thing everybody looks at. And So it devalues it completely.
Again, we can't investigate this completely, but assuming it's running really well, I think we kind of determined before the show in the 90 to 100 range.
That's about right. 90 to 100, and the condition it's in with the battery case. There's a lot of people out there. Actually, this is pretty interesting. About 3 years ago, somebody found a whole surplus of boxes for these.
Oh, just the boxes?
Just the boxes, flat, not formed, or anything like that. So there's a chance you could actually find that online. A lot of people were selling them. They went as cheap as $5. They put the boxes together, and then what's left now is the manual
and the foam, right?
The foam, the original foam
inside the box. That's going to be tougher.
I love old school Pac-Man interpretation.
The reason the reason why this goes for
his little hot dog feed, which is great.
And the reason why this goes for so much is because it looks like the arcade machine.
Yeah.
You know, it is a really cool thing to put
No, I mean,
on
it was
shelf.
on your shelf. I mean, literally, like you just had it on your shelf because it is just a gorgeous little piece to put on your shelf.
It is, and people love these things. So yeah, if you've, again, more gold that might be in your attic. If you were a kid and you had these in the 80s, these are going for big bucks.
Yeah,
for
boxed in
right
great condition,
is
$200 to
Pac-Man the most
$300,
valuable
$250
one?
to $300.
Yeah.
Sorry?
But boxed in great condition, like $250 to $300 for something like this.
For a full complete
For
set.
a full complete.
Is Pac-Man the most valuable one?
No, I would say, there's a good question. It's probably like Zaxxon or one of the later ones.
Yeah,
the
some
ones
of
that
the,
people didn't
the
actually
more
buy.
obscure
Yeah.
ones. Yeah, Donkey Kong is kind of hard to find too. Well, anyway, folks, we really
Should we
do
try to
appreciate you all coming out
run
here.
one more up, or do we have time?
We don't have time.
No, we
They're
don't.
done.
Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. But no, again, very sorry that we couldn't get to you all. We will be hanging around, so please do come up and talk to us. But thank you all very, very much.
Thanks,
from the
everybody.
Retrogame Roadshow.